Hello and welcome to our show, Chronic Ailments and Scientific Nutrition. My name is Janara and I'm a clinical nutritionist, and this show is about natural solutions based on lab analysis. Our show today is on solutions for metabolic balance and weight loss resistance, and more I'm hearing stories of I do everything I can possibly do and I still can't lose weight, or I still don't have the energy that I need no matter what I do. And we're going to talk about some solutions today, or how you can get to the solutions. And the way we set up this show is to tell you all about natural medicines based on lab analysis. So we use labs, nutrition, and supplements to bring the body to its natural state so it can heal itself. So how does the body heal itself? As you can see, the body is this beautiful network of organs, and they all work together. And one of the things we've done in modern societies, we sort of isolated things. Now, it's good to have experts. It's good to have a heart expert and a liver expert and an gastrointestinal expert, and so on and so forth, urinary bladder. But at the same time, we aren't dissected into tiny little things. We are a complete holistic human being, and we also have to respect that. And we have to look at ways where we can help our body holistically all the way around. When we get to the point where we have metabolic syndrome, or we're headed towards diabetes, or we have diabetes for any reason, it's because there's been a long buildup in our body, something slowly breaking down, nutrients not getting into the cell. And one of the ways we can do that now with modern science and see what's going on is by lab testing. And the more comprehensive we can get our lab testing, the better off we are. And quite often, if you go into a medical office and you have a complaint, you'll get a test for that complaint. You'll get a test for a hormone complaint, or if you're having heart issues, or you can't sleep at night. But you often don't get a complete, comprehensive test analysis, and that we're going to talk about later today. But right now I'm going to tell you why, because the importance of that tells us what went wrong to start with, and that's what preventive medicine and nutrition is all about. And here we have a little picture of a cell, and I've used this picture before, but today I want to talk about, there's a little red arrow on it, and above it is the word insulin. And insulin is key because everything that you eat, drink, is turned into glucose. And in order to get that into your cells so that your cells work and thrive, it takes insulin to drive them into the cell. But what happens if we have too much or too little? Then we have a problem. So often we know what all the symptoms are for diabetes and why we have too much insulin. And it's usually, in type 2 diabetes, it's usually we're converting food to sugar, and it's usually the type of food we're eating that we're converting to sugar too quickly. And so we're making too much insulin, and we have a high feeling of energy, and then a quick drop, and then we're ready to eat again because we're experiencing this low blood sugar syndrome. But what about signs and symptoms of other things when you don't have a weight problem? And so if you have increased hunger, especially in the form of carbs, you could possibly not be getting glucose into the cell due to insulin. And increased thirst, exhaustion, frequent urination, weight loss or gain, either one. Blurry vision, that's another one. Cuts and sores that don't heal on the body. The body has its way of shutting down what it needs to shut down in order to get the job that it really needs to get done by getting energy into your cell at a cellular level. And inside of this little cell are little mitochondria, and they're little energy factories. And if glucose and energy can't get into the cell, you can't make energy to do life. And then we have symptoms. So when glucose can no longer efficiently get inside of the cell and utilized for energy, then we begin to starve to death at the cellular level. Now, that's not something that we want to laugh about, but it also contributes to weight loss and gain. It also contributes to cellular inflammation. And the way I want to do it is first talk about why I can't lose weight, because this is what everybody wants to know. Have you tried everything and you can't lose weight? Well, maybe everything I just said plays a role in that. And why? Because toxicity in the cell is often the reason why we don't lose weight, because toxins attach themselves to fat cells. And if our cells are not functioning and the glucose isn't getting in, you're crying out, you're screaming for more your sugar. So you start to crave sugar and carbs, because you need to make more insulin, so that you're piling up those little insulin molecules like battering rams to get energy into the cell. So it becomes a vicious cycle. That's when we start grabbing the snack foods. And many of those are also toxic. But to understand weight loss and weight management and metabolic balance in this century, we have to understand toxicity in the cell and how to keep it functioning at its peak optimal best. So we're going to do some weight loss myth busters here. I'm going to review some of these because the number one reason that we get fat may not be the amount of calories that we take in. If this were true, everybody would be losing weight, and it would be as simple as 1, 2, 3 elementary school math. Calorie-restricted diets fail every single time, and part of the reason why is because you're resetting your metabolic balance point, and then you have to restrict even more calories in order to lose weight, and then your body balances out again and it resets it at a lower weight, and pretty soon what I hear and what you feel is, I almost eat nothing compared to somebody else and I'm still gaining weight. Why? That's why. Because it isn't what the calorie count is, it's exactly what you eat that makes the difference. So then we're at a place where we have a lack of nutrition, and when we have a lack of nutrition, our cells are literally starving to death, and they're setting us up for that uncontrollable craving for sugar and carbs, which all of us know about. So weight loss myth buster number 2 is calories in aren't equal to long-term weight loss. They do contribute to quite a bit of the problem, but when we get to that unhealthy state, they're no longer our issue. And we could exercise, we can diet, we can do all those things. These are those people that you see in the gym and you say, oh my gosh, my New Year's resolution is I'm gonna exercise every day for an hour and a half. I'm gonna do cardio, or I'm gonna lift weights. Do it, but do it for a healthy heart, for a good fat burning metabolism, because the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn, and the better your metabolic rate is, and that's healthy. Exercise to feel good. But hours and hours at the gym aren't going to help you at that point if your cells are starving to death. So the weight loss myth buster number 3 is fat makes you fat. We were just talking about calories. Well, if you don't eat fat, you're not feeding that cellular membrane that we were talking about. That's composed of fat, and you've got to feed your membrane so that it doesn't become brittle. Otherwise, that glucose has a harder time getting in, and that contributes to the whole process. So the truth is, it's not fat that makes you fat, it's the kind of fat you eat. So healthy fats are really important. And you need to have a certain amount of saturated fats, because your brain and your body need them. Your organs in your body are made up of saturated fats in part. And so not only do we need the unsaturated fats and the omegas, but we need a little saturated fat to help build the cellular membrane. So not all fats are created equal. And if you don't eat fat at all, you might end up at this, like this little kitty cat here, the fat cat, because what's happening is your body is starving for fat and it's not going to let go of it. And perhaps in that whole process of what you're eating, you're also storing toxins on your fat cells, and you're not letting go of anything. So that doesn't help either. So we get to cellular inflammation. And inflammation is a huge underlying cause of most of the diseases today, because we want to have ways to measure inflammation so that we know where to start and where to go. Nutrients can't get in, toxins can't get out. That triggers gene cells of susceptibility that interferes with cellular communication. Hormones can't talk to each other. Nothing's happening, and insulin is a hormone. So you've got this membrane here, and this is that double lipid layer inside here, and this is a water-soluble layer on each side, and it has little transports. And so every cell in your body has this, and then inside of the cell, the mitochondria also have this, and it's your communication system. It's like its own little brain on what can get in and out of the body, proteins and salts and potassium and minerals and so forth. All go through this transport system, and you have to feed it to keep it healthy, and it is, like I said, mostly made of a double lipid layer. So we need a certain amount of fat in our body, and it's really, really important. But as far as metabolic syndrome goes, one of the most important things in this issue is the liver, because the liver is the organ involved in type 2 diabetes. It's where it's what I would like to call a little glucose factory, and it's responsible for the glucose metabolism. So you need to know how it's functioning, and lab work will tell us that. We have to look at the right tests. And it's interesting, I have been seeing some patients in the office recently who are perfect weight. They look fine, they have great health, but they have high triglycerides. And in looking at a comprehensive type test, rather than saying don't eat fat, because that didn't obviously work, we looked at their liver, their A1C liver scores, and found that they were very, very high. And, you know, on their way to diabetes, if not corrected. And part of it's been eating a high carbohydrate diet, avoiding fats completely, and not having the correct balance of nutrients to build the cells. We're going through sugar way too fast. There's something called the glycemic rate, and that's how fast all of our food turns to glucose and gets into our cells. And it needs to be at a level that produces the right amount of insulin balance. And otherwise what's happening is you're storing a lot of glucose, and eventually you're producing so much insulin in the pancreas that it just tires out and it won't produce it anymore. And then you get into type 1 diabetes, because the pancreas is both a digestive organ for hormones, producing insulin, but it's also an organ that is very, very important in maintaining weight and energy balance. This is the pancreas right here. You can see it's got a little relationship with the liver and the spleen and the small intestine, the duodenum, and it's really what we call a digestive organ as well. So we know it as an insulin-producing organ, but it's a digesting organ because it produces enzymes as well to digest all your food. So the beta cells of the pancreas are sometimes working overtime producing insulin rather than the alpha cells producing glucagon, which helps with the whole gluconeogenesis process, which is the metabolic process of sugar and turning food into nutrition so you can get it in the cells. So it's a very, very important organ, and eventually if we tire out the liver and the pancreas by not feeding the body correctly, we end up with disease. And that metabolic syndrome, that weight loss resistance, that diabetes type 2 is directly related to that. So here's where we want to know what's really going on with us. So we do it by comprehensive lab testing. And the kind of lab testing that we do, and the reason why I call it comprehensive, is because it is the combination of blood, hair, and urine. And it tells us everything that's happening as a whole picture of you. Remember that picture of the whole entire body and how it all works together, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see an isolated liver score or an isolated heart or hormone test. We want to see what everything looks like together and what the body's actually throwing off and what it actually isn't getting. And so we do that with hair as well. Most blood testing that you're going to get back from your physician or practitioner is going to show functional lows and functional highs, and sometimes abnormal lows and abnormal highs. But usually, by the time you get to a physician for a blood test, you are no longer in the healthy range, and if you are, you don't know particularly what those ranges are, and we want to get down to the nitty-gritty and know what they are. So this lab testing is based on healthy people's lab scores rather than based on people's lab scores that are a combination of the averages of sick people. And that is important. So here's what one looks like. Here's 52 different blood tests. And the blood tests show the first test that the person took and the second test that the person took. And when you take this test and for the first time, your scores might look a little like this. This is white areas that are healthy, and these are yellow areas that are cautionary, like a yellow traffic light would be caution. It would caution you, okay, this is something we need to do right away. This may not show up on the normal type of blood testing because of the way the tests are analyzed against healthy people's scores versus sick people's scores. And code blue is something that we need to deal with right away. This is where your more serious problems are in this 52 panel of tests. And this is the second time the person tested after doing diet and nutrition and supplements. We tested them again, and we noticed that all the blue is gone, most of the red is gone, and the yellow or red has turned to some of the yellow. So we're seeing mostly yellow. Now, this probably would look pretty normal in standardized blood testing. But we can still see that we have some work to do, but we see, thankfully, that there's been a lot of improvement done here, and we're happy about that. Here's what a hair analysis looks like. And the reason why we do hair analysis is because we get to see what toxins are actually being thrown off by the hair follicle in the body. And we can also see what minerals are deficient. So in the top part here, for the toxins, we want to be over in the green. Here, we want to be in the green too. We want to be in the middle green area. And that's really important. So if we're mineral deficient, we're also not getting the nutrition we need to repair our body. So what I was talking about is every one of these little hair follicles is connected to an artery or a vein. Here's the artery here, and behind it's the vein. And so you can see what's being thrown off in the hair by that. Since we live and die on the cellular level, like we were just discussing, and it's very, very important to know what our toxic levels are. There's a quick little test that we add to the urine test in our office called a medioxy test, and it tests for urinary malinaldehyde, which is a byproduct of lipid peroxidation, which tells us how much free radical damage we have and how our antioxidants are doing and if we need more. And that's really important for cellular repair. And this little test is 50 times more accurate for that particular type of thing, the lipid peroxidation, than the blood. So we like to combine it. We like to give it to you as well. Cellular inflammation is the underlying cause, and then we do a standard urinalysis, and we put all these together into the report so that you have a comprehensive picture of exactly what you look like on a metabolic level or a biomedical level. So what can we do in the meantime? We want to get lab tested, but we also want to make little lifetime changes daily. And so we want to remove the bad fats, the sugars, the refined carbs, and the toxins, and let's avoid all man-made foods, because these are contributing to toxic health in our body, especially if we're not up to par in our metabolism and the digestion of foods. And we want to increase the healthy fats and oils and the fruits and vegetables and the healthy proteins. And we want to focus on natural foods made by man, unaltered by man in the laboratory. So we also want to eliminate grains when we have, when we're showing high glucose or we're showing that we're headed towards or that we're in metabolic syndrome because they turn to sugar so quickly in the body that it's a good idea to avoid these foods for a while. And we tell you how to do that. Healthy lifestyle is such a part of this. So once we know what your labs look like, we still have to change our life. You know, we can't snap our fingers, and we don't want to just do it all with medications. So we want to exercise to be healthy and for strong muscles. We want to have fun because stress is another huge contributory factor. Toxins and smoking and other things that we're exposed to, and even too much fun can be toxic to the body. So exercise is really good for that. Laughing, enjoying, making sure that you make time daily for a balance in your life. And use nutrients as medicine whenever you can, rather than medications, if possible. Eat your way to health and find the right supplements, and the way you do that is through comprehensive lab testing, because when we test you, we also get a full list of nutrients that you're missing and the ones that is recommended for your healing. And so often, this is so effective that you can end up just naturally lowering your medication or not having to go on medications at all. It's preventative. So just by a healing strategy of diet adjustment, cessation of eating flour and sugar, except, you know, certain healthy grains once in a while, adding nutrients for healing based on lab testing, and balancing the thyroid and the adrenals, and we can show you how to do that naturally without replacement therapy if you like that better, so that you avoid the endless cycle of meds. You know, these obviously are foods that contribute to sugar in the blood, and the glycemic rate goes up very high when you eat those. And these, on top of it, contribute to toxins. And so we were just talking why that's important to avoid. So back to the labs, it's really important that to make a starting point to get you back to a healing strategy, we need to know exactly what you look like as a whole. And so that's the beauty of combining full lab reports with full nutritional comprehensive evaluation and a hair analysis that shows where your toxic levels are and what minerals you may be deficient in. And then we have this amazing computer analysis that's based on thousands of people's testing and put up against thousands of healthy people's scores so that you know where to begin. Now you have a yardstick, not just to kind of put a Band-Aid on where you are and go from there, but you can actually feel better by turning your life around. And 100% of metabolic syndrome and diabetes type 2 and weight loss resistance is cured by diet. Diet alone can do this. And so that's what's exciting. And I want to go back and just show you again this one picture about the test. Let's see if I can get back to the test to show you here. Back on the hair analysis test, it's these nutrients down here that are often our anti-aging nutrients. And they are calcium and magnesium and selenium and potassium, and the right balance of all the tiny minerals that come from foods that are root vegetables in the soil. And that we find all this in hair. And most of the time I see people's hair analysis looking like this, very mineral deficient. We don't want mineral deficient hair or mineral deficient bodies. So in order to heal, we need to get rid of these toxins on a cellular level. We do it by testing and having the right kind of testing and being able to read the tests so that we can make these lifestyle changes. And we know how to make those lifestyle changes and what we need to focus on. And which one of these are most important to us? You know, perhaps we do need to do a little bit of lifestyle change in how we have recreational time. But for the most part, don't forget to laugh It is one of the best things you can do for healing. And once again, to use nutrition as medicine is a priority because our bodies recognize these nutritional components as the building blocks of our cells. And without them, we can't get well. So we want to use as close to natural supplementation as we can possibly use. And then if we have to use a medication after that, you know, that's fine too. But to have that optimal health so that you have the energy you need so that you don't age or age in a way where you have pain, no energy, and you know, no quality of life is the way that we want to help you prevent disease as well and a natural healthy balance. So once again, back to our healing strategy, focus on healthy foods, avoid the foods that create too much sugar in the blood too quickly, that leave us starving at the cellular level, and will eventually lead us to a pile of medication because because we will need it to feel better, and we won't be able to fix what we need to fix without the right nutrition in addition to it. And just make a small diet adjustment every single day so that it doesn't become a big chore. Health is all about being in balance, and that's the focus of metabolic balance and healing, and the reason why we want to get tested and know where we really stand. So back to the labs. Comprehensive lab testing based on the results of the averages of scores of healthy people is the yardstick we want to use for our personal health and as a preventive medicinal way to heal our body before the problems get too big. And so the resulting nutritional recommendations by the computer matched up to those scores that have been proven time and time and again to be the thing that actually brings the body back to health without guessing, without having to go online and reading 100 internet pages to make a decision. We know exactly what to do by these kind of scores and this kind of recommendation to bring you back to health. So my name is Janara Iman. I have a practice in San Rafael. My website is vitalnaturalhealthsolutions.com, and I want to thank the CM² studio for allowing us to bring these shows to you so that we can bring you better health and lifestyle. My phone number is 415-496-5205, and may you be in good health.